What's going on, everyone? Anthony Cofrancesco here from Data Dive, and this is Office Hours. We are back for week two. We are going to be covering our click-through rate optimization, CTR optimization. This is a big step and a little bit more challenging than what we covered in last week's session, which was SEO optimization. And today we're going to be talking all about the process that I use for optimizing main image and improving click-through rate. So for everyone joining and watching this on the YouTube channel, feel free to use the section markers down at the bottom to navigate. You can skip through the intro and go to whichever section you'd like to see. If you're not already using a Data Dive account, you should go to datadive.tools/demo and book a call with one of our team members. Everyone not only knows Data Dive very well, but they also know selling on Amazon. A few of them have recently launched their own products. So you're going to leave not only with a better understanding of the tool, but you'll leave with some good insights to grow your brands as well. Now, at the end, we're going to take questions. There's two different ways that you can ask questions. You can raise your hand or you can type your questions into the chat. Like we always say in the intro, there's three different ways that you can become an expert in Data Dive. We have our knowledge base powered by our AI chatbot. We have our YouTube channel. And of course, we do office hours 3 times every single week. So if you want to access the knowledge base, there's a question mark icon in the bottom right-hand side of your screen. You can go straight to the knowledge base by clicking on the knowledge base, or you can type a question into the chat, and then our AI chatbot will look through the hundreds of articles we have there, and it'll find you, hopefully, it'll point you in the right direction. Now, we're going to be expanding this knowledge base towards the end of the month when we wrap up all of these optimization sections. So go play around with this, and I think you should be able to find some good information there. Now, all of our prior office hours sessions are live on the YouTube channel. You can find our YouTube channel. It's called Data Dive Tools. And the office hours V2 playlist is everything that you're going to want to find. So this includes our real world case studies and earlier sessions of this optimization workflow. Now, we're going to be continuing this week with optimization. And like I said, last week, we covered the first part of this equation here, relevancy. And so if you remember from last week's session, relevancy is really looking at what is written into your listing. Does Amazon understand what your product is? And is there a match there? Do you have high ranks for the keywords that you want to be ranked for? And if there's any areas where your organic ranks are low or you're not indexed, what steps can we take to fix that? Now, looking at the rest of this equation, you'll remember that I said last week, your organic rank is all based off of this equation. You have relevancy times performance. So relevancy we covered last week. For the next 3 weeks, we're going to be covering the other half of the equation, which is performance. And performance is made up of your click-through rate, that's your CTR, your conversion rate, which is your CVR, and your revenue or your sales velocity. And that's largely going to be a factor of PPC. So what you have to remember is if you look at your brands and your organic ranks are not doing well, or you're not the number one in the niche, but your listing is written correctly, well, you can't rewrite your listing. You can't add in double keywords. It's not going to help you get anywhere. You've done everything that you could from a relevancy standpoint. The only thing that you can do moving forward is optimize for performance. And so this is the section that we're going to be covering today, click-through rate optimization. So let's see here. Here's where we are, week of October 7th, next week, CVR revenue. And then at the end of October, we're going to be doing a review of our certification program, and we'll beta launch the test. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this workflow is available if you go to datadive.tools/workflow. I'm going to recommend that you download the workflow so that you can follow along. What I'm going to do right now, though, is I'm going to close out of this and I'm going to grab this link and drop it into the chat. that you can follow along on your own. You can just click on this for optimize CTR. You can see the PDF. What I'm going to do first, though, is I'm going to explain the workflow from a high level, and then I'll go through and explain how to actually do it. What's important to know about optimizing for main image is that even though organizations, agencies are typically going to take a really long time to do this, what I'm trying to reinforce is that it doesn't need to take as long as it often does. And so what I'm saying is before you use this workflow, I think it's going to take you days, if not weeks. In some cases, it's going to take you months to go through and do this. My goal is that every time that you execute this workflow, you're going to get a little bit faster. And so I think the first time that you follow the steps that I have listed down below, it's going to take you about 4 hours to get through this. But once you've done this 5+ times, you should be able to do it in around 90 minutes. And so the process is as follows. First thing that you're going to do is analyze deep dive. This is the area inside Data Dive that you can see all of your competitor images all in one spot. When we analyze deep dive, we're going to want to look at the niche and see what are competitors in my niche currently doing for their main image. And then you're going to categorize all of these main images by type. After that, you're going to move on and analyze the AI product brief. This is going to give you some bigger picture concepts about what shoppers are looking to find when they're searching for products in your niche. Once we've analyzed deep dive in the AI product brief, we're going to move on to concepting the images. This is just creating the ideas of what our future main image variations are going to look like. These are the main images that we're going to test over the next few months. Once we've concepted and created the images, then we're going to validate these different concepts using market research. And once we find out of all of the different images we've concepted and created, once we find out from market research what we think is likely to perform the best, then we're going to upload them into Amazon. We're going to run it through Manage Your Experiments. That's the split testing tool inside of the Amazon platform. And then we're going to set up our rank radar highlights. So we'll get back to the implementation timeline in just a minute. Let's go over to that workflow. So I'm going to recommend that everyone follows along. It's going to help you retain this information a lot better. Now, I want to take 1 minute and just explain, before we get into this workflow, the reason you should pay attention and the reason you should not just say, hey, this seems like something that I should be doing for my business, but deep down, you know, you're going to push it off and push it off and push it off and push it off. This is your motivation right here. My thought is that optimizing your main image, optimizing for click-through rate is one of the fastest and most cost-effective ways that you can improve your overall performance on Amazon. When we get into conversion rate next week, you can see some amazing, huge gains there, but there's a lot of time, a lot of money that is spent in making new secondary images, new A+ content. In the week after that, we're going to talk about PPC, another big lever that you can pull to increase your sales velocity, increase your organic rank. But PPC is multifaceted. There's a lot of different things to know. There's a lot of different ways that you can structure your campaigns. It takes a lot of focus. Main image is one of those things that you do a lot of work up front, but once you've created all of these assets, you can test over and over and over and over again. And the likelihood of seeing an improvement in your click-through rate within, let's say, 6 months is a very high likelihood. And so if you can just put in the upfront work, get this done, and then test over the next few months, you can really dramatically change your brand. So that's a little bit of your motivation there. Let's get into the actual workflow. So if you're following along on your own, you can click ahead to any of these sections if you need to skip around a little bit. Let's start with this first section here for analyze main images in deep dive. So the first thing you're going to do is go to deep dive. Not as many people use this part of data dive as they should be. This is a really powerful tool. And what it lets you do is see all of your competitor image galleries all in one spot. So on the left-hand side of your screen, you're going to navigate to deep dive. And then what I recommend doing is clicking the arrows on the top left that point in towards each other. This is going to collapse all of the image galleries, so it's really easy to see everything all in one spot. Then what you're going to do is you're going to need to understand this main image matrix. So if you were in Inner Circle or you've seen my talks on visual optimization in the past, you'll be familiar with this. But for everyone seeing this main image matrix for the first time, this is really just a breakdown of all of the different possibilities of a main image that exist on the Amazon platform. So on the top left-hand side, you have your most simple, most straightforward. It's just the product on a white background. But if you look around the Amazon platform, you're going to see that many people in many niches and many different categories are doing something that's beyond just the product on a white background. So you can see as we go across, we have the product with the packaging, the product with different inclusions, product plus model, and even the product plus your variation swatches or decals like a tag or eye candy, something that's going to be extra on top of the main image. There might be some images that are combinations that you don't necessarily see here, but this is going to represent, I think, 80, 90+% of what you're seeing inside of the niche. And so once you have a pretty good idea of the main image matrix, then you can go into your niche and start categorizing your images by type. Now, I'm going to share this sheet with you. This is what I use to do this workflow. What I recommend that you do, you'll only be able to view this file. So just go to the top left-hand side of your screen. And for anyone watching on YouTube, I'll make sure that we include a link in the description below. But just click File, make a copy, and then you can edit this yourself. And what I'm doing here is I'm just looking at the niche. In this case, I went 15 competitors deep, and I'm just categorizing the images by type. So this is a real product that I went through main image optimization with. It's actually one of Brandon's products. And we went and created a bunch of new images. And what I first did before we started to create main image variations from this was just categorize what we have by type. And so what you're going to see is that every single person in this niche was doing the exact same thing. They were showing the product, and then they were showing all of the parts or all of the inclusions. So if I'm looking down this row here, I can see some examples of what this might look like. Kind of like this image here is a pretty good example. There's a lot of different inclusions in this product. So it's not just like the product plus one part. There's like probably 10 or 15 different attachments. And so what was happening in this niche is that the first 8 organic rank competitors had the product, and then in the top left, they had the largest inclusion, which in this case was a bag. And so that's pretty much what everyone was doing. They had the product scattered around, all of the inclusions scattered around, and in the top left-hand side, they had the bag. This is our product, competitor number 9. We had the parts inclusions scattered around, and then we had our bag in the top right. And then there was 2 competitors down here at the bottom that had a totally different item that was included that no one else had. And they had that different item right in the center of their main image. And so going through and categorizing the current main images by type is just going to tell you the lay of the land. It's just going to tell you what are competitors in this niche currently doing. Now, the step that we're going to go to after categorizing the main image is concept generation. And in order to help us with this, we can use the AI product brief. So the AI product brief in Data Dive is going to read all of the reviews, and it's going to read the product detail page of up to 10 competitors. And it's going to tell you, what do customers like about the product? What do they dislike? What are important features, as well as things like customer avatars. So if you want to create an AI product brief, you can just go to the left-hand side menu, click on AI product brief, select up to 10 competitors, and then click analyze the selected niche. And it's going to give you these different, it's going to give you this analysis. Again, what do people like? What do they dislike? We're going to get more into this, or it's going to be more relevant, I think, in the conversion optimization, working on your secondary images and your A plus content. But you can still get some interesting ideas here as you move on into concepting your images. And so things like customer avatar, our strategy played pretty heavily on using a model. And so looking, this is obviously for a cat tower, it's not for a kid's toy, but look through this and read around. You might get some ideas, some inspiration that you can use when you move on to this next step, which is create a list of testable concepts. So this is really straightforward. Don't overthink this. Anytime I meet people face to face and they're working on optimizing their main image, I'm like, just go and make a list of all of the different types of main images that you could possibly make. So it's really simple. On the left-hand column, I'm saying, here's what the concept is, and I'm pulling this literally straight from the main image matrix. And then on the right-hand side, I'm just giving a really simple description as to what that concept would look like in real life. So if you move down here, I have step 2, concept generation, and I have a few different options that I've created. So these two are just product on a white background. And I'm switching it up a little bit, and I'm saying that our largest inclusion I want placed in that upper right-hand corner. And then we're going to do a variation where the largest inclusion is right in the center. Now, for these additional 8 images here, these are the ones that we actually created. We just concepted these. We'll probably come back to them later. We were playing around with a few different options. We were looking at the product plus a model, the product plus a model in packaging, and then some of it with just the product in packaging. So if I go back here to the main image matrix, I can show you a couple examples of this. This is pretty similar to one of the main images that we use. So it's the packaging plus a model. And then let's say the kid in the middle is holding our product. You've got the packaging, you've got some of the inclusions, right? This would be an example of just the parts and then the package. We also tested these versions as well. So on the left-hand side, I'm just saying, here's what the concept is, here's what it's going to look like. And as I'm moving through, we came up with a few different options of these. Like for the model, we had one that was like a version 1 model where we used one kid, and then we used a different kid in the second version. But all of these are quite similar. I'm not going to spend too much time explaining each of these, but it's like you've got the model, he's holding the product, it's like in use, and then we've got some of his products around the edges. This is the V2 version 2 of the model, so it's a totally different kid. We have him in the bottom left, and we have the biggest product in the top right. We tried some that was including the model plus the product plus the packaging. And so we had the model. This was the original V1 in the top right. We had the packaging in the bottom left. And then we had the product in the top left. So we played around with some different concepts here. One of them was the product on bottom full width. I'm not sure how well everyone can visualize this, but I just can't share what the product is. We went with a 3D rendering agency that I'm a part owner of called Fade Visuals. We went and actually created these 8 versions. And so once we concepted those images, we handed them off to the creative team to go and build them out, to actually go bring them to life. Now, another tool that you can use here, and I'm really excited about this, this is brand new and very few people know about this, is a tool from Product Pinion. And if you haven't heard of Product Pinion, it's a market research tool that has a lot of similarities to PickFu and IntelliV. But what I have never seen any of those other tools have is this. And the whole purpose of this, what they call variationizer, is you can upload a picture of your product and then use AI to add on those decals, those eye candy, different things like that. And so it's very simple to use, and it might not create images that you would upload directly to Amazon, but if you're concepting out images, this can be very helpful to hand off to a professional agency or to hand off to your internal team and say, okay, I want you to make me something like this, but bring it up to a professional level of quality. So the concept that's being shown here is it was a bag of coffee. So you uploaded the bag of coffee into the image, and then you're using AI to have these coffee beans that kind of go around the coffee bag, or to have a coffee cup. I got to pull in the right image because they sent me over a deck that had the completed main image, and it looks a lot more impressive than this. I'll get the team to upload the workflow, the PDF here, to make sure it has that image. Okay, so Variationizer, very helpful. Oh, shoot, my camera. We got to turn this one on. Okay, there we go. Okay, we're going to put this one in the middle here. Okay, we're still doing good. My other camera died, and I think I'm still getting audio, so we're good to go. Okay, so play around with Variationizer. I think you have to sign up for an account with Product Pinion to use it, but in my mind, I think it's worth it. I think it's a great tool. I think it's going to come a long way. The next step of this workflow, though, is once you've created your concepts, or you at least have something that you can test, then you're going to want to go through this process of market research. Basically, you're validating the product concepts that you've created, and you're seeing how do they compare against each other to find out which of all of the variations you've created is the best, and then testing against the top competitors to see how they perform off Amazon. So this is pretty straightforward to do. Step one is you're going to test against your current main image and against all of the variations. Then you're going to test against your top 3 competitors. You're going to look at all of the results, see which one won, and then iterate from there. So I'm not preferenced to any of these options. Obviously, I used to work with PickFu. I think they're a great company. IntelliV, also fantastic. Product Pinion, fantastic. Go check out their Variationizer. You can use any of the code seller systems. I think will get you a discount. With PickFu, it might give you your first poll totally for free. So this is what it looked like. We actually went through and did this. Step 3 here was, this is the market research against yourself. So we took our current main image and we tested it against all of these different concept variations. So our model plus the product, model plus product plus packaging, we did it all. And when we first ran the poll, I wanted to save a little bit of money, so I did a 15-person poll. But I didn't feel like the results were conclusive enough. So I went back and I did a 50-person poll. The type of poll that I did was a ranked choice voting. So the people who are voting are not just saying, this is my top pick. They're saying, this is my first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. And when we tested in the 50-person poll, we did some audience targeting as well. So it was like, people who had kids, they were with the age range that fit this product. Got some of that information from the AI product brief, and Amazon Prime shoppers. I think that was pretty much it. So this poll was, I think, like $130, and it took a few hours to run because I did a lot of audience targeting. But the results came back that the best winning option was this model plus product. So our first version of the kid model holding the product, and then all of the inclusions kind of around. When we were running the tests, you can see that this one here, it was the model plus the product plus the packaging. It won the 15-person poll. So that's why when we move on to step 4, I ended up running 2 tests. Typically, I would just test one where it's all of our own images together, get the winning one of that tested against the top competitors. But this, we kind of had 2 winners, where this one won here, this one, just the model and the product, won here in the 50-person poll. So we ended up testing both of them as well as the original. So moving on here to step 4, this is where we took 3 of the top selling competitors and we tested our 3 different concepts. So this is the original image, the current main image that we're using, which is literally just the product, no model, no packaging, and it got a score of 36. This is the test that we ran first. It was the product plus the model plus the packaging, and we got a score of 48. I want to note that this image did not beat the top competitor. Both times the top competitor won, but we did see a a decent lift and a much higher number of responses for the new main image versus the current main image. We went on to test just the model plus the product packaging because that's what won the 50-person poll. And this also got a score of 48. Now, what I can say about using market research like PickFu, like IntelliV, like Product Pinion is that just because something gets a high score in market research off of Amazon does not necessarily mean that that product is going to win overall, right? It doesn't necessarily it's not a one-for-one correlation. What you should be focusing on a lot more rather than which one won, you should be trying to understand why that specific variation won. And when I read the feedback, everyone who's voting on these images, I'm not focused on which one won, I'm focused on why it won. I want to read all of the feedback, all of the 50 people that I paid to say which image do you like the best. Sure, which one they chose, it matters a little bit, but what I care much more about is why they chose the ones that they chose. And what I ultimately found is that when we try to put the product plus the packaging plus the model with this product that already has all of these different inclusions, all of these different parts, it's just too much going on. It's just way, way, way too busy. And so the hypothesis that we were coming to is that a simpler, less busy design is going to perform better. And so in future tests, I think we'll probably double down on that. The other thing to keep in mind is that a lot of people were voting based on the inclusions in the product. So let's imagine that I have, it's like a kid's coffee set, and it's so they can pretend to be a barista. If one of my competitors has a really amazing looking French press machine and they all have it's like really modern coffee pot and they have these cute little espresso cups and everyone's saying like, "Ooh, I love that design. I love the look of that product. I love that it includes this." Well, if my product doesn't have that, there's not much that I can do right now to go and compete with that. Next year, sure, I can go and work with suppliers. I can work on different designs, different configurations. But right now, we're just working with what we have. And so that's also something that came out in this first set of research that I think the reason the competitors' products were winning is because they just had, and I'm okay with saying this, they just had a better product. It looked better, it looked more realistic. And we're going to have, it's going to be an uphill challenge. Probably not possible in our current configuration for this product to be the number one seller in that niche. But the important thing is we're learning and we're thinking, okay, could we come back next year and move up the ranks? So the strategy from here, even though these both got the same score, this is the direction that we chose to go in for testing our first manager experiment test, because we thought that the feedback was saying people like the busy, the design that was less busy. And like I said, both of these outperformed the original. So we'll see how that translates into an improvement in click-through rate. So the next step here is once you've concepted your images, you've tested these off Amazon, the next step is going to be to upload these to Amazon and to run manager experiments. So manager experiments is a totally free split testing tool that you can use inside of Amazon. These tests do take a while to run. They want you to run these for a minimum of 4 weeks, ideally even longer. So this is why market research is important before going into manager experiments, so that I don't waste 4 weeks at a time with designs that I at least haven't validated in advance. So setting up manager experiments is super easy. It only takes a few minutes. You go to Amazon, go to brands, and click on manage experiments. Then you're going to upload a new image variant. You're going to click on main image. You're going to write a hypothesis. For these, I recommend trying to keep them customer centric. So don't say, hey, we're adding a kid model to our product because it's going to get us more clicks and we want to dominate our niche. You're going to say like, hey, this is a kid's product for kids ages this to this. We're adding a model so that parents can know if this product is going to fit for a kid of their age, right? It's going to give a better shopping experience, blah, 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 blah. Keep in mind that a human being approves these manager experiments. So if you're doing anything that is pushing the boundaries, you're trying to go towards a more lifestyle image, or you're trying to put in something that would typically be seen as non-compliant from a main image standpoint, if you put your hypothesis as being customer centric, I think you're going to have better chances of approval. So once you upload this into Amazon, you just kind of have to wait now. Wait for that test to be approved and wait and see what the results from that test are. Sometimes you might have to wait a few weeks to start seeing tangible results. And so once you've uploaded the images to Amazon, you just want to come up with a roadmap for basically what this is going to look like for you, right? And so you can see here, this was on the 8th. So this is yesterday. Our manager experiment for our first image went live. So we're currently testing that. And we're hopeful that we're going to be able to see a conclusive result in the first 2 weeks. And if we see that there's a clear winner, then we're going to say, okay, what's our next best option? And then we're going to start testing that against the new winner and see if every time we can get a little bit of a gain, a little bit of a gain. So we just are going 2 weeks at a time, going through version 2. And then basically by the end of the year, if things go according to plan, we should be able to get to our 7th variation. The only thing that I'm going to be tracking here is yes or no, is the new image a winner? And then Amazon is going to give you some metrics about like what is the percentage of probability that the new image is better. They give you some sales estimations. I don't know what I'm going to fill in for this. I'll come back and report in a future office hours when we get the results from this test. I think what's more important though is this down here, which is like your metrics reporting. And so really all I care about in this case is your click-through rate and your PPC click-through rate. And I'm just looking 90 days before, right? So I'm going to look at like what is the average of the click-through rate for this product 90 days before, 60 days before, 30 days before. And then I'm going to be looking after I make the change, what's my click-through rate 1 week after, 2 weeks after, and then 30, 60, 90. Keep in mind that when you're looking at these metrics on a daily basis, there's huge fluctuations. So I wouldn't necessarily like live and die by these metrics, especially as short as a week. Your click-through rate might be higher week to week for a range of different reasons. And so you really got to look at the longer time frames. I think if you're looking at your 90-day before and your 90-day after, and there's a significant increase, then you can say, okay, I think at least some part of why we saw an increase in click-through rate had to do with the main image change. This is why I like running manager experiments, because it kind of isolates just that one factor. It's not giving you a click-through rate as your final metric. It's giving you conversion rate as a final metric. But generally, if you're seeing an increase, it's going to be an increase across the board. So this is kind of what your monthly testing roadmap looks like. The last thing that you're going to do, same way we did this inside of Rank Radar for when you're optimizing your SEO, going in, getting into the habit of making a highlight inside of your Rank Radar. You can also make a highlight for these changes that you're doing to your main and secondary images. So if I go to Rank Radar, just click it on the left-hand side of your screen. And then if you click on the date, you can actually leave a highlight that's date specific. So if you remember from SEO, we made keyword specific highlights on the left-hand side. The date specific highlight is going to say like this applies to all of the keywords. So if you click on that, you can leave a highlight. And here, what it's saying is that on Tuesday, the 17th of September, I uploaded a new main image to manage your experiments, and I did the product plus lifestyle. This would be our second variation. And so now if I hover over that date, I can get an idea for what changes were made to the listing. So this is, I kind of covered this already. This is where you're going to monitor your performance and execute monthly manager experiments tests. With all of the work that we've done at this point, we already have enough that we can test easily throughout the end of the year. If we spaced out these tests, main image tests once a month, we could probably go through like Q3 of 2025. So like I said, this is a bit of work up front, but once you have those images, you can easily create multiple sets, multiple variations that you can test, and then you can plan out what you're going to test like for the next, for the next few months. Very, very easy to do. And so this is just a visual way of looking at this implementation timeline. I'll get back to that when I get to the slide deck in just a minute. Now, click-through rate is not 100% just related to main image. There's other factors as well that impact your click-through rate. Your price is going to impact your click-through rate. Your reviews is going to impact your click-through rate, and maybe a little bit of your title is going to impact your click-through rate. I'm not going to get into these alternate strategies for CTR optimization here. I'm just going to leave these with you. And like I'll be saying every week, success on Amazon is really all about these combo attacks. So you ideally don't want to just be doing one of these things. You want to be executing on multiple of these things. And so later down the road, we'll do a more serious session with Prophecy or Aurora, and we'll talk a little bit about price testing. As well as we'll dive into some strategies for getting more reviews. So I just have here mentioned the request a review button, Amazon Vine program, and join brands is more, I think, for external traffic and getting those videos on your listing. But I don't think you're using join brands to go and get reviews, but I just wanted to mention them as well because I think it's a pretty valuable service. So with that being said, let's jump back into this deck and we will wrap up. So this is an implementation timeline that I put together for another case study that we're going to cover next week on conversion optimization. This one I'm super, super excited about because we didn't just optimize the main images. We also optimized the secondary images, A+ content, new videos, and sponsor brand videos as well. And we've already been able to see a huge impact in that brand. I'm really excited to share it with you next week. This is an implementation timeline that I put together. And you can see that a majority of the testing that we're working on isn't the main image because we had actually tested for 2 months before we got to October. We had tested different versions of the main image. And what we found is that the first new version of the main image gave us like a 1% increase. And then we tested like 2 subsequent variations since then, and they both performed worse than the original main image. Not the original, but the first V1 of what we created was the best. And so we're just going to be testing the main image until basically the 15th of October. And then we're going to start testing our V2 of our A+ content. And we're going to rotate back and forth between testing alternates of our A+ content, secondary images. And it basically takes us into Feb of next year, where we've tested 6 versions of the secondary images, 6 different versions of the A+ content, and then we wrap up in March for good measure with testing V4 of our main image. So this is what it looks like in the real world. We'll get into this case study next week. It's huge. Like we're talking millions of dollars of extra sales for this brand. And I'm really excited to share it with you. So this is where we wrap up today. If you have questions, you can feel free to drop them in the chat below. I can't stress this enough. Your success on Amazon comes down to this very simple equation here. Your relevancy times performance. SEO is the easiest thing you can do. It's writing the listing. You just check that box and you can be basically done with that. All of your success, once you've got the relevancy piece figured out, all of your success is going to come down to performance. Amazon is just looking to see for all of the sellers that are indexed for the keywords in your MKL, who's giving me the best click-through rate, who's giving me the best conversion rate, who's giving me the best revenue on a monthly basis. If you're overperforming relative to the average of the niche, your organic ranks are going to go up. If you're underperforming relative to the average of the niche, your organic ranks are going to go down. If you're performing about at the same level, your organic ranks are going to stay flat. So if you're able to come in and make some gains on your click-through rate, even a little bit above what you're doing now, you can expect your organic ranks are going to go up. If you can improve even just a little bit your conversion rate, your organic ranks are going to go up. If you can improve even just a little bit your sales velocity, your organic ranks are going to go up. Okay? If you're in the number 1 position and you can do all of these things all at the same time, you're already number 1. The only thing that's going to happen is your performance, you're going to push people out and you're going to steal market share from other competitors. So if you think about it like that, I think it helps a lot. The last thing that I want to say about optimizing for main image and optimizing for click-through rate is that making a very small percentage gain can have a very big impact on the brand. For example, if your click-through rate is 2% and you increase it from 2% to 3%, doesn't sound like a lot. It's just a 1% increase in click-through rate. But a 1% increase is a 66 absolute increase in click-through rate. So if you keep the number of impressions that you have the same, you're going to get like 66% more people getting into your listing. If you're converting the same number of people, your sales are going to go up, your metrics are going to go up. Remember too that you don't need to necessarily get this right on your first shot. Okay. If your target is to increase your click-through rate by 1%, but you're saying, okay, I might not get it right on the first try, but if I can make small gains over time, and you're saying, let's see what we can accomplish over 6 months, a 1% increase in click-through rate over 6 months is only 0.16% per month. So if in the first month, it's like only a little bit higher, in the second month, it's only a little bit higher, in the third month, it actually goes down. And then the fourth month, you're like, whoa, we figured something out. You just got to try different concepts on that main image matrix, do your market research, and see what's going to work. If you have a brand that's doing $20 million a year, you go and don't do this for one product, 5 products, 10 products. You do this for hundreds of products over and over and over again. You get really fast at executing this workflow. 1% increase across the portfolio and click-through rate is going to be going $20 million to $30 million. In the case study that I'm sharing next week, the biggest gains that we saw, even though we increased the conversion rate by 5%, the biggest gains that we saw are going to come down to click-through rate. Keep in mind too, for people with larger product portfolios out there, it's not just about winning on one product. For this product that we're working for, this is part of a much larger brand. There's tons and tons of toy products. So the more tests that we get through, we're going to see, okay, what we learn, what wins here is probably going to perform similarly across the brand. If we find that adding a cute kid model holding the product is a really great option, we can apply that to other parts of our portfolio and not have to start from square one. So it doesn't look like we have too many questions here. We'll get to these in the end. I'm just going to go through our lineup for the next few weeks. We've done SEO, we've done click-through rate. Next week, every week gets a little bit more complex, a little bit more difficult. Next week is going to be conversion optimization. We're going to be talking about secondary images, A+ content, a little bit of video. The week after that, we're going to be talking about optimizing revenue. We're going to be focusing on PPC. And then the last week of October, we're going to be doing a test review and a beta launch for our certification. If you've seen our office hours before, these are some new features. Now, all Data Dive users have the ability to add any keywords they want to Rank Radar. You can also watch this new video, which explains the new UI for connecting your PPC account to Rank Radar. If you're not connecting your PPC account to Rank Radar yet, you are definitely missing out. As well as this is a feature that a lot of people have been using. It's been out for a couple months now, and it's niche compare. It allows you to compare multiple points in time in your MKL, and this video explains how to set up auto dives. So if you're not yet using Data Dive, you can go to datadive.tools/demo. Our team would be happy to set you up with an onboarding call, 1 free month of our starter plan. And if you're interested in joining Inner Circle and seeing a lot more in-depth content of kind of the stuff I covered today, like visual optimization, PPC, supply chain, logistics, everything you could want to know about Amazon FBA, you can join and get $500 off, and you also get a 33% discount.